The first time that you met Indira Gandhi, do you remember it?
Absolutely, and very well. She was in London on the way back from New York. I think she had gone for the opening of the Nehru exhibition in New York. It was 1965, and Rajiv ji had already written to her that he had met this girl from Italy, whom he liked very much, and she asked him to bring me along to meet me. She wanted to meet me. So a date was decided, and from Cambridge, Rajiv ji drove me down, and just a little while before we enter the city, I got cold feet, and I said, no, I cannot meet your mother, I will not. And I didn't.
She was already Prime Minister at the time?
No.
She hadn't
This
become
was
Prime Minister.
1965.
So it was just before she became Prime Minister?
Yes. So then he had to excuse himself and say to his mother that he couldn't take me, that he had to change the time. And then the next day, I finally said, yes, I will. Okay, I will. I will meet your mother.
Why were you frightened of meeting Mrs. Indira Gandhi?
I suppose, you know, mother-in-laws are rather frightening figures, especially even more so mother-in-laws to be, possibly to be at that stage. And then when I saw her and when I met her, she was staying at the High Commissioner's place. I was, of course, terribly nervous, but pleasantly surprised because she was perfectly natural. I was a little, as I said, nervous. I couldn't speak English very well, very much at that time. And so she conversed with me in French. And when she obviously saw that I was terribly nervous, she told me, don't be afraid. I was young too and in love, and I understand you. That's absolutely...
That bowled you over?
Completely.
What influence did she have over your politics and life? I mean, even now, 32 years after she's passed away, how much has she influenced your politics and your life, your entire transition to India and then taking that big step into politics? Was Indira Gandhi the person who's influenced you at all times in the moves that you've made in your life?
Well, I wouldn't be in politics if I wasn't
her daughter-in-law. But when you had to take tough decisions in life, have you thought of her? I mean, you had to take a lot of tough decisions in life. Your decision not to become Prime Minister in 2004.
The tough decision was, the first one was whether to join politics or not. I did not want to join politics. And as probably is known, I did not want my husband to join politics. He was not keen to join politics. He was very happy as a pilot. We had our own pace, our own life, and but it's precisely because of a certain duty that I felt towards my mother-in-law and my husband, because I saw them struggle, work day and night to uphold certain values, certain principles. And when it came to my call, I felt that I was being cowardly not to respond to them.
There was this image of Indira Gandhi, or the duty that you saw towards Mrs. Gandhi, that she saw politics almost as a duty and therefore virtually pushed her family members into politics.
I don't think she pushed any member of her family to join politics. But I think she brought up her sons in a manner in which they appreciated, they understood the kind of work, the kind of, in a way, sacrifice she had done to uphold certain values. Because I think she herself did not want to be in politics. Perhaps this is something that very few know.
She didn't want to be in politics.
She was not terribly keen to be in politics.
But once she was in politics, she was the ultimate power politician. So it seemed almost to the outside world that she was made for politics, that Indira Gandhi was made for politics. You're telling me today that you believe Indira Gandhi's instincts were not to join politics.
That's my belief. I may be wrong.
So she also saw a sense of duty to Jawaharlal Nehru, in a sense. Or to
I will
country.
always say to her country, to the people of the country.
You think that was her thing, a sense of duty to the country?
Without doubt whatsoever.
The reason I'm asking you this is the one criticism that has always been made against Indira Gandhi, it's made against you, it's been made against the Gandhi family, is promoting dynasty. That it is almost as if you're saying that it wasn't as if the family members were forced into politics, but somehow they've all been in politics now for 4 generations. We are sitting in a house built by Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira, Rajiv, Sanjay, now Rahul. So it's 5 generations.
Yes, well, I see and understand. I mean, people do look at it that way. But I would say, just like in a family of doctors, in a family of professors, in a family of business people, one or the other within the family will choose the same path as the father, right?
You don't think that's dynasty politics?
No,
I would
say there is a difference, because in politics you are elected and you are defeated democratically. There is also that difference.
What, according to you, are the central ideals or values that Indira Gandhi represented, according to you?
Secularism.
And secularism in the sort of classical way you believe, not as it's described today as minority appeasement, because there's
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It was to treat all religions equally.
Absolutely.
And every citizen.
All Indians.
Right, because
are the same.
And you believe that was
regardless of their background, of their religion.
And she practiced her life like that, because
yes,
I've seen pictures of Indira Gandhi with the tribals of the Northeast, with celebrating Eid and celebrating Hindu festivals. Now, many have criticized that over the years, saying that that this has led to appeasement. You believe there was a genuine sense of treating everyone equally?
Completely, absolutely.
How do you assess, ma'am, her contribution to the country? As you said, you believe above all else, was committed to the idea of India and country above all else. If today, as we sit here in Swaraj Bhavan, you were to assess Mrs. Gandhi's greatest contribution to this country,
her greatest
is now beginning. There's an exhibition in her name which is going to travel across the country.
I would put it in these words. Her greatest contribution is her loyalty and devotion to the people of India.
Did she ever talk about it to you, about this special relationship that she had with the people of this country? What is it that drove her to work every day?
She was she had in her deep compassion and empathy for the underdog, for people who were in need of help and support.
Something that maybe is missing in today's politics.
Very much so, yes.
The reason I ask you this is because she also was the first, an Indian woman in 1966 to become the Prime Minister of the country. America couldn't produce a president in 2016 who was a woman. The fact that she was a woman, did that in any way, you think, did you see that side of her? Was she proud of her sort of almost feminist? Was she ever a feminist, or was she, as someone once put it, the only man in her cabinet? Did she ever, the fact that she was a woman Prime Minister with all the men around her at that time, we were still a very male-dominated society, did that affect Mrs. Gandhi in any way, influence her decisions, make her tougher maybe?
I don't think so. In fact, I think she did say somewhere, I seem to remember, that she never felt that she was a woman amongst all these colleagues of her. She always felt an equal to them.
Mrs. Gandhi's black mark, ma'am, was the emergency.
Yes.
And till today, people, in a sense, look at Mrs. Gandhi from two images. One is the 1971 war as her biggest moment, and her darkest moment as the emergency of 1975. What do you believe, how do you believe she would see the emergency today? Would she see it as something she deeply regretted as the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru?
I cannot say exactly how she would see the emergency today. But I can say that if she had not felt extremely uncomfortable with it at some stage, she would not have called for elections. Right?
That's true. In 77, she did take that big decision to revoke the emergency and hold an election that she lost. But did she ever personally, in conversation with you, tell you that she regretted it?
I remember instances where Rajiv ji was a pilot. He used to fly to various parts of the country. On a number of occasions, he would meet up with people or a passenger or a friend who would say, look here, you know, I've heard that this is happening in whichever place. And he would tell his mother, and I could see that she would take it and she would listen to it and she would think about it.
But she never openly ever told you, Sonia,
I will write it in my own book.
That's what I'm wondering. Are you going to? Yeah, because you should. You should. Nobody knows Indira Gandhi.
If and when.
If and when. I thought it's about when more than if.
Well, let's see.
When Indira wanted Rajiv ji to be her political heir after Sanjay Gandhi's death, you have publicly said that you were against it. You're saying it even today.
Yes, I was completely against it.
It said, famously in the book, you fought like a tigress to stop your husband from doing it. Did that change your equation with your mother-in-law those last years?
No, because again, she was a very intelligent woman, don't forget. She allowed the two of us to work it out amongst ourselves. She never said anything to me.
Was there a lot of privacy that she gave you all as a couple over the years?
Yes, we had.
I mean, your public life, you know, the daughter-in-law and the son of a prime minister, it's not an easy space to be in because your public and your private life often get completely blurred. Did she allow you to keep your private life completely separate?
It was different in those days. There was less focus on us, the family.
You didn't have 24/7 television
channels?
No,
we didn't.
So that nobody was speaking into your life?
So we had, yes, quite a lot of space to ourselves.
There are those, ma'am, who say the Congress party today needs a leader like Indira Gandhi to take on someone like Narendra Modi. The reason they say is Mr. Narendra Modi is this tough prime minister, much like Indira. And the Congress doesn't have that kind of tough, competitive leader to take on.
I don't agree with that. Don't forget that when Mrs. Gandhi entered politics, she became president of the party or later prime minister, she was ridiculed. She was made fun of. She was insulted. There was nothing that she did that was right.
She was called Gungi Guriya.
From within her own party, I would say perhaps even more than outside. Right?
And you believe that she was able to overcome that?
She was able to overcome that. She did overcome that.
I'm just wondering whether that's something you learned from Mrs. Gandhi, because there is this fighting spirit that we've seen in Sonia Gandhi from time to time. Is that something you learned from your mother-in-law? Because you were attacked, viciously attacked.
Yes.
Today Rahul is also attacked.
Absolutely. Yes.
Does the family take, in a sense, confidence from from what Indira Gandhi was, or do you believe the world has changed? You need to be more competitive now than even in the 1960s and 70s when the Congress was the dominant party. You didn't have a leader like Mr. Modi to take on then, that Mrs. Gandhi had.
You know, every sort of era in politics or in history has its own problem, its own leaders or its own opposition. No, I think the Congress party is taking on the present dispensation.
But did you take inspiration from Mrs. Gandhi, from what she went through?
Maybe subconsciously I did. I can't say that I sort of studied her, what she did or no. I never did. Subconsciously, I guess one imbibes, like in any other family. As I said, I don't know.
And you think your children also? Because now today,
yes.
when you say that they can take on,
yes.
You think they have that
yes.
spirit? You
Absolutely.
think it's not true that Rahul and Priyanka have had more sheltered lives, unlike your mother-in-law who went through the freedom movement?
Not at all.
So they can take on the likes of Mr.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The reason do you get troubled when people ask you, when political observers or people write, or BJP leaders say, Narendra Modi is like Indira Gandhi, he's the, that power politician? Does that trouble you?
It doesn't trouble me because I don't believe in it at all. I have my own very clear view. There is no comparison.
There is no comparison?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
As a power politician?
Absolutely not.
So you don't sort of, I know this is a political question, but you don't sort of see the Congress as a party which in Mrs. Gandhi's time was the dominant party of the country. Now you have to come up from 44 seats. You don't think that it's all...
I think that it is absolutely possible. Not only it is possible, we will come up from 44 seats to the seats needed to have strength, full strength in power.
You will come back to power, you believe?
Absolutely. In politics, you win, you lose. You come up in power, you go down. It's part of life, in every sphere of life.
Let me ask you a question that many also ask. Priyanka Gandhi, your daughter, is supposed to resemble Indira Gandhi. Who in the Nehru Gandhi family today is more like your mother-in-law? Who's been the most in all the years that you've seen them?
Every one of us has been influenced by Mrs. Gandhi, my mother-in-law, and in their case by their grandmother, in different ways, right? I've been influenced in my own way, in a particular way, Priyanka in another way, Rahul in another way.
So it's not about...
There is no model kind of thing, that, oh yes, I am, or she is, or he is. We all have been influenced in different ways. Because
my trick question then would be, or what people would ask is that, will Rahul be the person who will take forward this legacy?
Well, that you have to, I'm not the person to...
You won't decide that?
To decide or to reply,
You saw her the first time, you said, in London, in happy circumstances. You saw her the last time in not so happy circumstances. 31st October 1984. She literally died in your arms in Safdarjung Road. Your recollections, ma'am?
Yes, that was a terrible day. It was, I was in my room, and which was right next to hers. She was preparing to go for an interview, and I heard some noises. Diwali had just been, and sometimes, Diwali sort of carries on a few days later, and I heard these noises, and I thought maybe they are Diwali's patakas. But there's something was different, and I sent one lady who worked for me out to see what is it. She came back howling, crying, and of course I knew that something, because we were expecting it. My mother-in-law knew. She had spoken to us about it. She had given instructions. She had spoken to Rahul in particular. And I ran out and I saw her, well, she body riddled with bullets. And we took her to the hospital, which was again a terrible sort of, because there was no ambulance, nothing, so she was placed in the ambassador in the back seat, and I was sitting with her in my arms. And there was a lot of traffic. Anyway, slowly we reached the hospital, and that.
Did it take you a long time to come to terms with what had happened to your mother-in-law?
Yes, it was a terrible blow for me. It was a terrible blow, of course, for Rajiji, for Rahul and Priyanka, for all of us.
As this exhibition now comes, a traveling exhibition on her 100th birth anniversary goes across the country, a young generation has grown up, which hasn't even seen Mrs. Gandhi, all born after 1984. What would you like that young generation to see in Mrs. Gandhi through this exhibition? What is it that you... To try and understand and see a woman who was completely and totally devoted to her people, who was willing to give up everything, including her own life, for the people of her country. So it's the sense of sacrifice, yes, that she gave. And do you think that came from her father and the fact that she herself had been through that freedom struggle, that she grew up in this place?
She grew up during that period. In fact, she herself was jailed for a few, not for long, but in fact she was during the freedom movement. She herself had organized a Banar Sena of young kids who used to go around quietly, pass on information to leaders or seniors because they were watched by the police, and to distribute quietly leaflets against the British government.
So her sense of patriotism is what drove her.
So it was very, very strong in her. It was, I would say, it was everything.
The reason I'm asking you this is because we are sitting here actually in the very space where she was born, yes, where in a sense the influence of Motilal, Jawaharlal, should be still felt in a way.
Of them, of course, and all the other stalwarts of the freedom movement, because this was the center where, all of them used to meet and strategize. So, and she knew them all. She met them all. Of course, she was very young, and then later on, but she knew they were like a family. They were like family for her.